Right, we've now got 2 rebuttals. This will be for 15 minutes each, and then you'll be relieved to know we have a break. So firstly, people on my right, and then 15 minutes, and then after that, people on my left. Thank you.
Well, obviously, when someone brings up in 30 minutes a whole bunch of points, there's not you need to take. It's easy to say, all right, let's say with the women are oppressed in Islam. That just takes a few seconds to explain it, and that's not the case. It takes minutes. So I'm going to answer as quickly as I can all those points as best as I can. We're glad you like our Islam, but it's called classical Islam. You should try investigating sometime. Nabil said that he came from this background, you know, I came from the same background, I used to live in jihad. As a Qadiani, you believe in jihad as a pen. In fact, that's one of the major differences between Islam and Qadianism. They don't make all apparently constructed in the US literally at the same time. Yeah, well, no, that's Christianity. Anyway, so the other point, how much violence have they committed in the name of Islam in the past week? How many people have Christians killed in the past week? In Afghanistan, Pakistan, around Iraq, and so on. How many? And you might say, they're not practicing Christians. Well, then allow us to retort with the same response. Right. When it comes to, they said that, oh, you know, how Muslims, we're not peaceful because look at these verses, they say that we go to attack and so on. As individuals, we are peaceful, we can't. Much like the Christian theology, as individuals you have to be peaceful. But if the ruler gives you marching orders, you have to go. Unlike Christianity, we can say no if the ruler says it's an unjust war. But Christian scholars are still divided this very day as to whether you have to still obey the ruler, even if he commands you to do injustice, to attack other countries and so on. And I can bring Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, Calvin, and Martin Luther to bear on this one. And unless they know nothing about Islam, those 4 guys, enough about Christianity rather, they know nothing about Christianity, then fine. But they seem to be quite good authorities in your religion, so I've heard. Anyway, as for abrogation, Surah 9:29, where it says, fight those who disbelieve on the last day, nor hold what Allah has held forbidden. Interesting enough, they pass along that, nor hold forbidden what Allah has held forbidden. You know, one of the conditions of peace between the Prophet Muhammad and the Najrani tribe was that they don't do interest. They don't use interest. They don't use interest banking, whatever, which is on a it's an unjust system. And it has been prohibited, interest is prohibited. And remember I said in the verse, Allah has declared war, and His messenger has declared war on those people who do interest, who practice interest. For all our sake, because it's an unjust system. So those who do not hold what Allah has held forbidden, and if you read all the verses, if you read verses before that and other verses where it said those who rule by other than what God has revealed, they are the oppressors. You see? So it's all in context. Oppressors, it is oppression. If you rule with other than what we call capitalism, communism, it's oppressive systems. Communism is oppressive, and we call that other than what God has revealed. It's a problem with that. And Christianity, with the Christians that were practicing in those times, there was no Christian law. There is no Christian law today being applied anywhere. So again, you still fall short of following the own revelation God gave you. You have to implement it. But anyway, so abrogation, there's no abrogation on this one. It's addition, as in another verse comes down and it adds to it, because all the other verses Muslims still use. There's still historical doctrine. We all use it. The Prophet still used it. The companions still used these other verses. We talked about defense. We talked about offense. They all used it. They still used it. There was no abrogation. Where did they get this idea from? I don't know. Source of conflict. You know, the source of conflict was Muhammad's criticism. Really? That's like saying that to Christians, essentially, that the source of conflict was Jesus in Israel. Damn it! He got crucified for his own fault because he criticized the Pharisees. Bad Jesus. No. I believe what Jesus did and what Prophet did, what Prophet Muhammad did, is righteous and just. So if you're going to condemn the Prophet Muhammad for this, you're going to condemn Jesus as well. Sorry. As for the issue of someone being killed with jawbone of a camel, sounds like something in the Old Testament. I haven't heard of that in Islam.
You use a source for that, David.
Yeah.
Which one?
Jawbone of a camel.
Sounds a bit like Samson in the Old Testament to me.
Yeah. Anyway, as for as for Hamza hitting someone with a bow, this was before Hamza became Muslim, and he saw someone abusing the Prophet Muhammad, and he hit someone, saying, "What are you acting like a coward for?" Essentially. That was before he became Muslim. So we're held to account for those who aren't Muslim yet. Right, fine. Prophecy, he said, oh, the Prophet Muhammad prophesied they'll conquer the Persians and Romans. Well, doesn't this sound like a prophet, really? It actually will happen. I think, are you arguing against or for Islam? I don't know. I mean, you're saying that Prophet Muhammad was successful in one of the prophecies he gave, that they will conquer, when there was only 5 Muslims in the whole world, that he prophesied that the Muslims will conquer the Romans and Persians, who were mighty empires at that time. I think that's a sign of his prophethood, not a sign that refutes him, but thanks for bringing it up. As for, he preached 10 years and survived. Wow. 10 years, well, yeah, he preached 10 years and survived. You know, interesting thing is this, yeah, what kind of society was it? Was it like a society where, you know, you had centralized government and you had obviously a police force and so on? Was that the kind of society it was? These people are very anachronistic. It was a tribal society. Abu Talib's tribe was protecting Prophet Muhammad. If anyone killed Prophet Muhammad, there would be a blood feud that would kill loads of people, and they were scared of this. Until they came out, they had a plan that if all the other tribes were pagan, if we all do it together at the same time, they can't, the Abu Talib's tribe can't attack us. So we can all get away with it. When they came up with that plan, they decided to strike the Prophet Muhammad, but he had left by that time. Why doesn't the mill not know this? Very interesting. Curious. Anyway, then he said that the Prophet Muhammad declared to the Qureshi, I bring you slaughter. According to the hadith scholars, classical and modern, it's fabricated, so they should know this. If you check your research, or I can bring up the Gospel Barnabas if you want. And so that's authentic as well, yeah? Right. They said two people were killed in 10 years. Well, the Quran says, like my Jewish friend also agreed, also in his sources, if you kill one person, it says if you kill all humanity. So I'm sorry, that's not acceptable. Only 2 people died. It's okay. It's only human beings. You can kill them, isn't it? No. Caravan raiding. Interesting thing about caravan raiding. The caravan that was raided, the Qureshi caravan, what was on that caravan? What was on the caravan? On the caravan that the Qureshi, that was the Muslims raided this caravan. Yeah, what was it? It was the properties that were stolen from the Muslims, the people that still remained behind, it was stolen from the Muslims and put on that caravan. They were brutalized, all their possessions taken, put on that caravan to make money for the people that had taken it from them. What, is it wrong to take it back? Oh, I'm sorry. Right, as they said that the Prophet Muhammad started the war of the Qureshi, according to Sultan Nabi book by al-Andalusi and Mani, it said that the cause that led to the Battle of Badr, all battles fought between the Prophet Muhammad and the infidels of Arabia, was as stated by Urwa bin Zubair, the death of Amr Hadrami, who was slain, who was killed by Qureshi called Waqid ibn Abdullah Tamimi. Do some research. I'm going to give you this book, like I'll tell you the aspect of this book or other books like it afterwards. So some research, please. Sorry? Yeah, she owns that book. Yeah. There's no excuse then. No, I used it. Right. He said, fight those who do not disbelieve. They kept bringing up, fight those who do not disbelieve. That's what it says. Fight those who do not disbelieve. Right? Yes. Fine. Okay. As Muslims, obviously, we're not going to, in terms of spreading Islam, let's say if you're a communist, right, there's no point in invading the Soviet Union, is it? Because all the communists are there. It's like, we must invade all the communists to spread communism. Not going to work. Yeah? Or America said, we must invade them, all the democracies to control. Oh, no, bad example. Anyway, but anyone knows about South America. Anyway, long story. But it doesn't make sense. Obviously, the Quran's going to say Muslims are going to fight against those who don't believe in Islam and are not implementing the law system, a just law system. So of course we're going to fight. But they said, oh, but it's because of belief. We're fighting because of belief. If that was the case, we would force them to be Muslim. But they never were forced to be Muslim. Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that there are Egyptian Christians, Coptics, Assyrian Church, there are so many denominations in the Middle East to this very day, with the oldest churches in the world. What, did the Muslims just forget? Just like when they pass by the church, it goes, that's a funny mosque. Sorry, it doesn't make sense, no. We only show friendship outwardly and we pretend to be peaceful. This is very interesting that they say this. Because the verse of the Quran which says, do not take the Jews and Christians as your allies and protectors. It means do not take them as your patrons. If you're going to establish an Islamic system, a Sharia, you're not going to have a Christian who's ruling it because he doesn't believe in it. It's like having, have a communist system, have a capitalist ruling it. It doesn't make sense because he doesn't believe in it. Why are you going to make him the ruler? Why are you going to make the capitalist or the communist protectors of each other when they have a different ideology? They don't agree with each other. Why should they? This is why we said the Christians and Muslims and Jews are left alone. They're left alone. Autonomy, they can have their own laws if they want, and they do. Sometimes they went to the Sharia courts, better laws. And that's it, because we don't expect them to be under our system. But very interestingly enough, though, it's very interesting in 2 Corinthians 6:14, I can say the same about Christians. It says, Do not be yoked together with unbelievers. For what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness? What harmony is there between Christ and Belial, the pagan god? What does a believer have in common with an unbeliever? What agreement is there between the temple of God and idols? For we are the temple of the living God, and as God said, I will live with them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they'll be my people. Therefore, come out from them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch not unclean things. I will receive you. I'll be the father of you, and so on and so forth. So I could say that the Christians too can't be friends with Muslims or any non-Christian, and so on. And yes, people shake their heads, but also Muslims are shaking their heads when they're trying to twist our sources. So at least you have to try to understand this. Try to understand this. Our frustration when they try to misquote us. Yeah. As for it says, oh, jihad's giving praise. Yes, martyrdom is given praise. So sacrificing your life for God is given praise, and it's sacrificing your life for God. Yeah? How many of you would actually have the bravery to sacrifice your life for God? Ask yourselves this question. Ask yourself this question before you question other people. I'll say, do not find a splint in the brother's eye before you see the log in yours, yeah? As for atheism, say, well, about theology or about the belief, atheism is the most simplest. Yeah, but I also said it has to be consistent. An atheist is a contradiction because they can't answer which caused the finite, limited, and contingent universe which we live in. The universe has to be as a cause. And if they don't answer this question, so their theology or their lack of is inconsistent and irrational. That's my point. With Islam, belief in one God, He creates everything, He's indivisible, infinite. What's wrong with that? Any contentions? I'm going to take contention. On Saturday evening, we're going to have this debate as well, so please be there. It'll be very interesting. He also says state of abasement. The people were in a state of, the dhimmis are in a state of abasement. And he quoted Ibn Abbas. Now, Now, it is known that the person who quoted from Ibn Abbas, Tanwir al-Miqbas, is almost unanimously known not to be from Ibn Abbas. Yes, tafsir ascribed to him, and it's a fake one. So again, check your sources, please. But let's say, what did the Prophet Muhammad, what did he really say, according to the hadiths from the Sahih Sitta, the 7 hadith books, the collections of hadith and so on? Prophet Muhammad said, whoever's harmed the dhimmi has harmed me. How much do we love the Prophet Muhammad? We will never tolerate a non-Muslim citizen of an Islamic state being harmed. Prophet Muhammad said, when he saw some dhimmis were being forced to pay jizya and they didn't have anything, he said to the people doing it, stop doing it. He said, do not torture the people, for whoever tortures them in this world, Allah will punish them, or they'll be punished by Allah on the day of judgment. The Prophet Muhammad also said, whoever oppresses a person under covenant, a dhimmi, a protected person, or oppresses him, or imposes on him something more than he can afford, or humiliates him, or takes anything from him without his consent, I will oppose him on the day of judgment. And as Al-Qarafi, the classical Muslim scholar, Maliki scholar said, and this is agreed by all schools, gentleness towards the weak, towards dealing with the dhimmis here, how we should act towards them, we should show gentleness towards their weak, providing clothing for them and soft speech. This must be done with affection and mercy, not intimidation or degradation. Furthermore, tolerating the fact that they must be bothersome neighbours whom you could force to move, but you do not do so out of kindness towards them, not out of fear or financial reasons. Also, praying that they receive guidance and thus join the ranks of the Muslims, advising them in all the worldly and spiritual matters, protecting their reputation if they are exposed to slander, defending their property, family, rights, concerns, assisting them against oppression, and getting them their rights. These are all the obligations Muslims have to non-Muslim citizens. It's more than people do here. It's more than people do in this country. Bloody hell. Right. Thank you. Now, he mentioned apostasy and wife beating. I can't get to that because there's limited time. Well, suffice to say, apostasy is also a law in the Old Testament. If you condemn that, I want you to condemn the spirit that tells people to kill people for apostasy. I want you to condemn this. If you condemn this, I accept it. If you don't, sorry? Yeah, I want you to condone it, in fact. Condone it, condone this thing, that this thing has come from God. Maybe not Islam, but at some point in the Old Testament, we know this. As for wife beating, the verse, the hadith does not say that Aisha was beaten by her husband. The daraba implies a tap. It's not even daraba, sorry. It's not even daraba, it implies tap. The word that was used was she was tapped. And it goes, oh, it means she was struck down. This is silly. This This is silly, and please research the Arabic and the sources before you try to find any nitty-gritty thing you can, because some people are so desperate to attack Islam, they try to find anything. So please, check your sources, otherwise you're only going to humiliate yourself when you bring up a debate like this. Yeah, and please source everything you say about the Prophet Muhammad in future. I think I answered all their points as quickly as I can. I'm really sorry, people, that I can't deal with the rest of the stuff, but maybe my next segment will deal with it. Thank you.
Okay, we now invite our American friends to give their 15-minute rebuttal, after which time there will be a 15-minute break. Thank you.
All right, that was an excellent presentation on his behalf. He hit a lot of what we said, and I certainly appreciate that. A lot of times when we debate, people just want you to respond to what we say, they'll go off on their own subject. So, well, I really appreciate that you actually listened to what we said and provided a good response to it. I don't think, however, that it was an effective response. So let me start off by talking about the concept of abrogation. He said that chapter 2, verse 256 was not abrogated by these later statements in the Quran, such as 9:5, 9:29, etc. The fact of the matter is, his own scholars are against him on this issue. And when I say scholars, I'm not talking about random people. I'm talking about some really good scholars. For example, Ibn Kathir says that it was abrogated. I can quote Ibn Juzay, who said to have abrogated every peace treaty ever mentioned in the Quran. As-Suyuti says the ayat of the sword, in other words, 9:5, abrogates. The ayat of the sword abrogates pardon, truce, and overlooking. So we have multiple people who comment on this saying that it was abrogated. This is not Nabil Qureshi's tafsir. This is other people's tafsir. And I did check my sources. I wish you would stop accusing us as if we did not. I can also talk about chapter 9, verse 29. You said, the problem here is that they don't hold that which is forbidden. That's simply not the case. It does say, fight those who believe not in Allah nor the last day, nor hold forbidden that which hath been forbidden. But what they're doing is explaining those people who are to be fought. The not nor hold forbidden that which has been forbidden is another modifier of the people who are to be fought, and it says very clearly at the end exactly who they're talking about from among the people of the book. The next verse tells us clearly the reason why. The reason wasn't part of the modifiers. The modifiers is explaining who. The reason why is in the next verse, where it says the Jews call Hosea the Son of God, and the Christians call Christ the Son of God. Allah's curse be on them. So the issue of why they're to be fought is explicit, because Allah's curse is on them because they called certain people sons of God. It's for their beliefs.
And notice something here. We didn't just quote Quran passages. We're misrepresenting all these Quran passages. We quoted your greatest commentators who agree with us on these issues.
And actually the reason why we have those beliefs is because the commentator said so in the first place. Before we move on, can I just briefly also mention his reference to chapter 5, verse 32 of the Quran. He didn't actually mention the number of the verse, but the verse which says, if we kill one person, it says, if we killed everyone. That's chapter 5, verse 32 of the Quran, commonly used by Muslims to show that Islam is peaceful. However, if you read it in context, it says, we ordained for the children of Israel that if anyone slew a person, unless it be for murder or for spreading mischief in the land, it would be as if he slew the whole people. So that's for the children of Israel. The next verse tells us how we're supposed to relate this to Muhammad and Allah. The next verse says, the punishment of those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger and strive with might and main for mischief to the land is execution, or crucifixion, or the cutting off of hands and feet from opposite sides, or exile from the land. Notice, the verse he's using to show you can't kill anyone is not applying to Muslims. The verse that does apply to Muslims says kill them, execute them if they provide mischief against Muhammad and wage war.
And by the way, go to some tafsir collections and look up what it means to be a mischief maker. It means to spread unbelief. Very dangerous ground, and this is what you'd be killed for. Now, I hope I misinterpreted. I really, really hope that I misinterpreted what Abdullah says. He says, yes, of course we fight people. We fight the oppressors. And then he described Western financial systems as oppressive systems. So does that mean he is called to fight the West because of our oppressive systems and to end the oppression? I hope not, but I hope he'll clarify that for us. He says he can point to violence in Christianity. Well, we will be dealing with this issue completely on Thursday. But notice what we weren't saying. We weren't saying, hey, look, Muslims have committed violence in the world today, therefore Islam is violent. What did we say? We said Islam. We have peaceful Muslims and we have Muslims committing violence. We said that was to set up the issue, who's right here? And then we went to the sources to show who's right. So if you can show from the Christian sources that we're called to violence, please do so on Thursday. Now regarding the Meccan period, they asked for the source on Saad shedding the first blood, that's Ibn Ishaq. He says that Hamza wasn't a Muslim yet. I read the passage to you. Will you, after he goes in and hits Abu Jahl with his bow, he says, will you insult him, Muhammad, when I follow his religion? That sounds like a Muslim to me. He says Muhammad said he would conquer Arabia and Mecca, therefore he's a true prophet. Well, come on, Alexander the Great said he was going to conquer a lot too. That makes Alexander the Great a prophet. No, it shows that Muhammad was set on conquering, even in the Meccan period when he was proclaiming that his religion is peaceful. Regarding Muhammad surviving for 10 years, he pointed out that Abu Talib's tribe protected Muhammad. Abu Talib died in 619, and that's when the people of Mecca picked up the persecution. But notice, 619, Muslims left. In 622, Muhammad was still there for 3 years. Yes, they persecuted. Yes, there was killing. Yes, these things are bad. But again, my point was, this is absolutely nothing compared to what people endured under the Muslim rule. Regarding Ibn Ishaq, I bring you slaughter. This is found in Ibn Ishaq and al-Tabari. They say it's fabricated. Notice, this is your earliest detailed biographical source that we have. I think al-Tabari is your best detailed biographical source that comes after Ibn Ishaq. They both grant this, and they throw them out. Well, if you're going to throw out these passages, guess what? By the time you get a century away from Muhammad, history has already been corrupted. How do Muslims know about Muhammad? They go to sources more than 2 centuries after the time of Muhammad. If by the time you get to a century away from Muhammad, your sources have been corrupted, don't tell me you know anything about your prophet. So either treat your historians as reliable, or admit that you don't know a lot about Muhammad historically. Take your pick. I'll allow either one. Do you want to go on to?
Sure. I'll mention how he briefly talked about the Naqarid saying that the Muslims were taking their property back. Please show me a source that says that. If you show me that, then I will include that in my statements in the future. However, I don't think there is such a source. You do, even when you say that, even when you say the Muslims were just getting the property back, guess what you have still conceded? You have still conceded that the Muslims initiated the attacks during the holy month, killing a person during that time. And if it's for property, then I think that's even worse. Then you talk about Badr, and you say, well, it was the Meccans who came and attacked. The Battle of Badr was the Meccans' fault. No, what happened in Badr was the Meccans realized, oh my goodness, these people are willing to attack during the holy month. Next time we send out a caravan, we're going to send a convoy with it to defend it. The Muslims came out for another raid. That's why there weren't so many Muslims there. There was only 313 Muslims total for the Battle of Badr. They go out to attack this caravan. They see an entire army ready to fight in case they need to defend this caravan. That's why the Muslims in the Meccan army were not fighting near Medina. They were fighting out in the middle because the Muslims went out to meet them, and now you have a battle. That's what happened with the Battle of Badr.
All right, turning to the Quran on violence. Regarding fight those who do not believe, he doesn't seem to think that this is a call to any sort of violence, universal violence against people in general. Notice it says, again, fight those who do not believe. Notice what Ibn Kathir says about Muslims fighting everyone. Notice what Muhammad said in the Hadith about fighting people until they recite the Shahada. These aren't qualified in any way. Notice, even in 929, it's until we pay the jizya. If you come up to me and try to preach Islam, am I going to start paying you the jizya? No. If you come up to me and say, I'd really like you to pay me the jizya, am I going to? No. The only way Christians and Jews would start paying off the Muslims is if the choice is death, or if they're going to be fought. And that's exactly what we find when we turn to the Hadith, when we turn to the life of Muhammad, and when we turn to the Quran, and when we turn to the commentators. He says, no one was forced to be a Muslim. Really, you guys have got to read some of your sources. After Muhammad took Mecca. Muhammad took Mecca, and Muslims point to this as a very peaceful instance in the life of Muhammad. He could have slaughtered everyone under the rules of warfare of that day. True. And he didn't. Only a couple people were killed. So that seems very peaceful. What happened next? Well, a little later, Muhammad was returning, and he said he wanted to perform the Hajj, and he was upset because the pagans came there and they would circle naked. So he issued a command: after this year, no one who's a pagan gets to come here. And that's when you have Surah 9:5 revealed, when the holy months are over, when this 4-month period is over, you guys have 4 months. You guys have 4 months to decide whether you want to be a Muslim or whether you want to leave. When 4 months are over, we are going to kill you. And there's no forced conversions. Lots of people converted because they were going to be killed and they didn't want to leave. That's just a fact of history.
Also, in similar regards, after the Battle of Khaybar, a lot of the Jews, after Asma bint Marwan was killed by order of Muhammad, a lot of the people came to Islam after that. Well, answer me this: why would people all of a sudden come to Islam when they're seeing people getting killed? It says very clearly at that point, people came to Islam because they saw the power of Islam. It's right there in the records.
Surah 3:28, he said, regarding don't take people as non-believers as friends and protectors, he says, well, you know, in Christianity, don't be yoked together with unbelievers. That's not what I'm talking about. He missed the point entirely. I was referring to the part where if they're more numerous than you, you pretend to be friendly towards them. You smile in their faces while you're cursing them in their hearts. And this is what you're supposed to do when you're in an area and you're outnumbered. And here in the West, we have Muslims telling us left and right, oh, we love you guys. We're so peaceful. We just want to get along. I know that some of you believe this. But I also know that you are commanded to fake. So I sometimes can't tell the difference. And that's scary.
And I'll just say that my parents are Muslim. My relatives are Muslim. I'm not saying that they're trying to pretend to be friends with me. They are friends with me, they love me. I'm not saying that everyone in the West is like that people nowadays practice these things. What we are saying is that the people who are commenting on the verse of the Quran said this is what Islam means.
He says that Christians are going to be, he says that Jews and Christians are left on their own as long as they're providing, as long as they're paying the jizya, and he rejected the commentaries I gave. We have all sorts of things that refer to the Muslim attitude towards Jews and Christians. Sahih Muslim number 4366. It has been reported that the messenger said, I will expel the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula and will not leave any but Muslims. Is this a man who has a vision of a peaceful society? Of a society where Christians and Jews and Muslims are all going to live in harmony? No, I will expel them all. I don't want to see them here. Al-Bukhari. Number 1103 in his Al-Daba al-Mufrad, Muhammad said, do not give the people of the book the greeting first. Force them to the narrowest part of the road. So you got the main part of the road, then you force them to the narrow part of it. Also in the same text, Ibn Umar passed to the son of the Caliph Umar, passed by a Christian who greeted him. The Christian greets him. And Umar returned the greeting. He was told that the man was a Christian. When he learned that, he went back to him and said, give me back my greeting. I'm not going to greet a Christian. And think about the Pact of Umar. We have this in Al-Tabari, we have this in Ibn Hazm, we have this in all kinds of sources, the Pact of Umar. Here are the rules that the Christians had to agree to. The Christians are forbidden to build churches or monasteries in their cities or nearby areas. They are not allowed to renovate such beings. They must allow any Muslim to lodge in these buildings, in their churches, for 3 nights and provide them with food. You have to feed the Muslims while they're there. They must not display any sign of their unbelief or forbid their relatives from converting freely to Islam. Furthermore, they must show reverence to Muslims and give them pride of place at their assemblies. Muslims get to sit up front. They are not allowed to use a saddle and a beast of burden, nor bear a sword, nor any other weapon. So, riding the bear back there. They are not to display a cross or any of their books as they are passing Muslims on their way. Now, should Christians ever deviate from obeying these rules, Muslims would cease to honor the covenant that had protected them. In that case, Muslims can deal with them as if they have become a people of discord and trouble. As if we break any of these rules, if we decide to fix our church when the roof is falling in, we are to be treated as mischief makers. And you know what the Quran says in 533 about mischief makers. The treatment that we're going to receive, and Nabil already covered that. And one more passage regarding, Abdullah has pointed out that according to the Muslim sources, they are supposed, as long as dhimmis are following the rules, they are not supposed to harm us. That is true. But there's a reason for that. We have it from Muhammad himself. He said, I advise you, oh, this is from Umar. He said, I advise you to fulfill Allah's dhimma, financial obligation, made with the dhimmi, as it is the dhimma of your prophet and the source of livelihood for your dependents. You don't harm the dhimmis as long as they're following all the rules and not wearing their crosses and not rebuilding their churches and not preaching their religion. You don't harm them. Why? Because they're paying you 50% of what they get every year. Don't harm them. This is the religion of peace.
Now, there are other things that he brought up. There just simply isn't much time in the context of the debate. But he also talked about how I made a false parallel with martyrs. I said, oh, look, Muhammad praises martyrdom. How dare I say such a thing, praising martyrdom? No, I think having zeal for God is excellent. But the fact of the matter is, he says, there's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than dying in the cause of Allah. There's nothing better than fighting. Fighting in the forenoon or the afternoon is better than the whole world, whatever's in it. That's what I'm objecting to. There should be things better than fighting, namely love, peace. But this is
the greatest of these is love. Very different picture. Just one more minute. Regarding killing apostates, he says in the Old Testament there was a command to kill apostates. I agree. I would not call that a peaceful ruling. Christians aren't told to follow this, but we said in the beginning, I'm not saying there's violence, therefore it's not true. That's not what we said at all. We simply pointed out that this is a violent teaching. So there was violence in Old Testament Judaism, no doubt.
In regards to hitting Aisha, he says that, oh, it was a tap. What is he talking about? In the Hadith itself, it says, he hit me in the chest, causing me pain. Read it by yourself, number 2127. I don't see how you can say that was a tap unless you had really sensitive skin.
All right, well, our time is up. We've seen very clearly that Muslims are called over and over again in all their sources to violence. If this is religion,
these are Muslim sources. We're not coming up with these things ourselves. We're referring to Islam to tell us these things for itself. Thank you, Jerry.
You'll be relieved to know it's time for a break. 15 minutes, please, ladies and gentlemen, and come back for more. We have now the second rebuttal. If you could please return to your seats and quieten down as well, so we can hear the speakers. So back, thank you. Abdullah and Yahya are going to begin the set of rebuttals with an 8-minute period of rebuttals. And then after that, the other side will have an 8-minute period as well. And then we go to crossfire, which I mentioned earlier, 2 minutes comment response time each. And then we'll have a chance for you to ask questions, make comments, and we'll come to that as well. So I'll hand over to Abdullah and Yahya for 8 minutes, please.
So just arranging the notes. Okay, they brought the issue of abrogation again. Ibn Kathir insists that verse 29 is an abrogation. Firstly, Muslim scholars aren't agreed on abrogation. Right? If you're going to say that, well, this guy believes in it, and that, but there are other guys who don't believe in it. In fact, there's quite a lot of dispute between scholars about which is abrogated, which is not. If that's your case, I can bring you a Christian scholar that believes the Pope is infallible. Must you take that too? You know what I'm saying? Ibn Kathir is not the foremost authority. It's an issue when people quote certain scholars who say something that they think they like. They say this person is the greatest authority in the whole of Islam. I said, no, it is not. There's many other, sometimes even better commentators. So I don't believe it's abrogated, and even then, Ibn Kathir has no different opinion in terms of the fiqh, in terms of the understanding of this verse, than other Muslim interpreters or scholars of fiqh. When he says fight those disbelieve again, and he goes, see, when he says no, those who hold forbidden or others held forbidden, this is just something that comes after. Just it said out of those who disbelieve, you're going to fight. Just also, those who hold forbidden or others has not held forbidden. Why would the Quran mention this? If it's extraneous, if it's not doesn't add any information to it, if we're just going to fight a disbeliever just because he's a disbeliever, why is that included? See, it's included because it's important to those who do not hold forbidden what God has held forbidden. And in another verse of Quran, Surah 29, verse 46, it says, "And dispute you not with the people of the book, the Jews and Christians, except with means that are better, unless you see them inflicting wrong or doing injustice," whichever one just say it as. So injustice, we intervene. Other than that, We don't intervene in that sense. Now, he also mentioned the fact that that in verse, was it Surah 532, it said that if you kill one person, you kill the rest of humanity. That was referring to the Jews. There is a virtual agreement among all scholars, all interpreters, that this is an Islamic ethic. It's mentioned in the Quran. Do you know why it's mentioned in the Quran? Why is it for the Jews and Christians? Just a story for us? No, it's for us to learn by what happens to the Jews and Christians. As Muslims, we're meant to learn what happened to the Jews and Christians. So when the Jews, when it said that it's like very important, the Jewish scripture which said if you kill one, it's like you kill everyone. This is a truism. It is a statement that is universally true. And as like it says in the New Testament, all scripture is good and can be used, as a Christian would believe. Yeah, same thing. All truisms which are universal can be used in Islam, and this is what almost all Mufassirs, all the interpreters say. As he says, then he goes to he mentions something from Ibn Hishaq. Concerning. Right, the politician Ibn Hishaq, and he goes, yeah, he said, if you're going to reject certain things in Ibn Hishaq, you're going to reject everything. He doesn't understand what Ibn Hishaq is. Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll cover a bit more in the classified. Ibn Hishaq is a collection of history. In some of these collections, the same story has 4 versions, written in the same, one after the other. The person who's the historian, he's collecting stories, he's collecting it. You heard something? Oh, I write it down. You heard something? I write it down. This was before they had formalized Islam checking. They wrote down hadith as in a formal form, and that is preserved. Obviously, the Mutawatir Imam Malik is a formalized hadith book, and it's very early in Islam, for example. But it has formalized checking of narrators. You see, and the contention is the contention of Ibn Ishaq is in a way sometimes the same as our contention with the gospel. See, some of the gospels we don't know from where the church got it from. You know, it has a name according to Luke, Matthew, Mark, whatever. But we don't know who said it, who are the chain narrators. We don't know. So in this situation, when we encounter the same situation in Ibn Ishaq, we say that if a particular narration has no chain to it, no traceable chain of narrations, we reject it outright. We'll say it has no legal value. But it's going to be in the same book because the guy is writing a history from any source he can find. So again, you should actually understand this before you use this fallacy against us. The Prophet Muhammad fought against pagans. Whoa, what prophet never fought against pagans? It's what you do with your prophet, really. It seems to be fighting against pagans. The case is that idolaters and polytheists. The Prophet Muhammad, he said, he was given commands that the Arabian Peninsula was going to be made holy. It was going to be made for only people who believed in God. And so the pagans, no idolaters were allowed to live in Arabia, because God designated Arabia to be only for people who are of the one who believe in one God. So again, that's not a problem, but that's only if you believe if God sent it or not. So, God sent Islam or not, but it's not a problem biblically. Biblically, it's not a problem. It should be a problem. As for the oppression of the Quraysh, said that there was, when after Abu Talib, the uncle of the Prophet, died, then the Quraysh didn't oppress or kill the Prophet Muhammad. So the Prophet Muhammad wasn't stoned in Taif. The Prophet Muhammad wasn't boycotted to the point of starvation with his tribe and left in a valley, desert valley somewhere. This didn't happen, right? And they didn't plan to actually assassinate him after this point. It didn't happen, right? See, wrong. It happened. Again, if you knew history, you'd see there was oppression. There was the oppression. They tried to kill him. Then he said that in the Battle of Khaybar, the city, the Jewish city, they saw the power of Islam. This was that they were military forced to be Muslim or what have you. Saw the power of Islam. But if a Muslim army has been successful in your region, you've seen the power of the army. Let's say I've seen the power of the American army when it's going to certain countries around the world, right? The problem is when they start killing innocent civilians, then I start having a problem with the American military. And then they've gone beyond their power, which is the issue. And it doesn't say that the Muslims kill innocent civilians. Doesn't say that. Again, need to see that innocent civilians were killed. So the issue that we have to pretend to be peaceful. Yes, you know, the Muslims, there are circumstances where we lie. Yes, I'm going to admit this. We have to lie. Well, not have to, we can lie if our life is threatened. If they say, put a gun to our head, say, pray to this idol or we shoot you. We have the option to. God will not punish you if you do. If you actually say, right, fine, I'll do that. Right? He won't punish you. So are you planning to force Muslims to convert to Christianity at the point of gun, or force us to leave Islam? Because if not, then there shouldn't be a concern for you, whether we actually lie our life as friends. In this country like this, usually we're not afraid of our life, so there's no need to lie. So why are you bringing it up for? As for the issue of, yes, he quoted the son of Omar and how he treated a Christian and so on. Sorry, thank you. Son of Omar, he's not a source for us. There are other sources that say Jews and Christians are treated with respect. First one of them says that Christians will have to wear big crosses. Then they will, another one said they have to wear no crosses. Make your mind up. And the Pact of Omar, there are two Pacts of Omar. One is a forgery, and that's the one they were quoting. The other one is historically been proven to be true, and that allows Christians the right and freedom to have their churches and build them. I can quote it here, but there's no time. The apostasy law, apostasy is a mistranslation. It really should be the treason law. And essentially, anyone who does not want to act according to the laws of the state and believes that people should be killed or fought, these people are to be judged for it. And of course, the case of Asma, there is a narration here, if you just bring it up, which said that she was inciting violence against Prophet Muhammad. If you incite violence in any country, you're going to get locked up. And Abu Dhul has the Qureshi saying to the people of Medina who were pagans, some of the pagans saying, if you do not expel the Muslims who come amongst you, we will fight you and kill you, kill your men and capture women if you don't expel the Muslims. So the Quraysh were already being aggressive to Medina and urging warfare. And that comes in one time. Thank you.
Now we have an 8-minute rebuttal from the Christian side.
All right, I'd like to first mention that he started off by talking about abrogation. He says, not all Muslim scholars are agreed upon the abrogation of these facts. Mind you, Ibn Kathir is not just one scholar that we're picking up randomly. We go to Muslims and we ask them, look, it seems like whoever we quote, you just throw them out the window. You say, I don't agree with that one, I don't agree with this one. So we said, please tell us who we should go to and who do you consider trustworthy. They always respond, well, Ibn Kathir to us is the most
And then we go to Ibn Kathir and they say, who's he? We don't care about him. Interesting stuff.
But the fact of the matter is, this is not just one person we're quoting. Oh, you're quoting a scholar. Well, the other scholars disagree. That's what he says. But understand what we're saying. This scholar agrees with multiple other tafsirs, who also agrees with Sirah literature, who also agrees with the Hadith, who also agrees with the Quran. This scholar has the explanation that fits best into the picture, and that's why we go with him. This is being ignored. He's making it sound like we're just picking one scholar over any other scholar. He refers back to 929 of the Quran, which says, fight the people from among the people of the book until they pay the jizya, fully submission, feel themselves subdued. He refers to that as if it's just some group of people who you fight because of some random beliefs. No, the fact of the matter is, it says right after that, in 930, the curse of God is upon them because they believe certain people are the sons of God. That is why they are cursed, and that is why the Hadith commentators, the Quran commentators, the Tafsir say they should be fought. He keeps ignoring this fact. It's right there, Surah 9, verse 30. He then says, look at 532. 532 says, you save one person, it's as if you save everyone. You kill one person, it's as if you kill everyone. He says, this is something we learned from the past, which we're all supposed to uphold as a universal truth. We need to understand that things that were said to the Jews can still apply to us. Well, there's also something called abrogation, where things that did apply in the past no longer apply anymore. They are not universal truths. So the question is, does this count as universal truth, or was it abrogated? And I'm telling you, by the verse of the Quran and the way Muhammad lived his life, we see repeatedly that it was abrogated. If not, then I ask you, when Muhammad slew a person, did he slay the whole of mankind? You're saying apply it as if it's universal truth. Muhammad killed, he sent for the killing of Abu Afaq. He sent for the killing of Asma bint Marwan. He sent for the killing of Kinana. Each time he did these things, was he fighting people who fought against him? No. He's fighting people who merely said words, or were trying to defend their own property. And so did Muhammad kill mankind 3 times over? According to him, yes.
And I'll just point out, if you want to say that that command goes for everyone, that's fine. We go to your commentators, this refers to innocent people. According to Islam, if you reject Muhammad and you deny Allah and you say that Jesus is Lord, you do any of those things, you are not an innocent person. You don't fit into that category. And that's why Muslims could be called to fight us in Surah 929. Regarding the history of Muhammad, he says, Ibn Asaq, we don't know what Ibn Asaq is. It's a collection. Some stories are contained in four versions. This was before Isnad checking had been formalized. All of that's true. The bottom line remains, it's your earliest source. It's more than a century earlier than your great collections of ahadith. If history had been so corrupted that a great historian writing a little over a century after the events can't get it right, even though he's going around checking, if he can't get it right, then why should I believe that your historians more than a century after that could get it right? Again, you have a choice. Either say that your early historians are basically reliable, true, not perfect, but basically reliable in general, or say that you just don't know anything about Muhammad. Now, if you, regarding sources like Muhammad saying that he brings slaughter to the people of Mecca, we have the isnad right here, so true. Ibn Ishaq didn't always record his isnads, but he did on this one. There are only 4 names on the list. That's a pretty short chain. So, and I'm looking at this, and these were other collectors of Sirah literature, so this seems reliable. Regarding the idea that there was an oppression in Mecca, that Muslims were oppressed, yes, we have instances of Muslims being killed. We have instances of Muslims being tortured. We have instances of people being very mean to Muhammad. We're not questioning that. We have not objected to that. We simply point out the fact that Muslims look to that and say, how horrible, this is awful, look at this violence, look at this persecution. Why don't you say the exact same thing when Muhammad does something much, much worse to the Jews? When they criticize, I mean, think about this. Muhammad is going out forming an alliance against the people of Mecca. The people of Mecca aren't supposed to do anything in retaliation. When the Jews of Medina attempted to form an alliance against Muhammad, what happened? All the men slaughtered, everyone who reached puberty slaughtered, women taken into captivity, children sold as slaves. And this is perfectly acceptable. Hello? And we could go on to the other events, to what happened in Mecca. Convert within 4 months, or leave, or you'll be killed. Why the inconsistency? Why is it perfectly acceptable to do what you want to the Jews or to the pagans, but if you even criticize Muhammad, you deserve death? And this makes perfect sense to Muslims, and I'd just like to see a bit of consistency on this one.
And when speaking of Jews, understand the Battle of Khaybar was one where people who had been forced out of Medina had fled to Khaybar. A whole group of people had fled to Khaybar, and there, these people are just working out in the fields. According to the sources, they're just going with their shovels to start a day's work when the Muslims descend upon them and start killing the men. So he's saying, well, we're not talking about killing innocents. How do you find innocent? How do you define innocent? If you're saying people who are unarmed, who are forced out of their own city, are not innocent, I don't know who is.
And none of us here are innocent under those standards, except the good Muslims here.
So I think we've thoroughly responded to what he just said in his second rebuttal, but he has not responded to everything we said in our first rebuttal. Don't forget, in Sahih Bukhari now, those of you who follow the Hadith the way most Muslims do will understand that Sahih Bukhari is the most authentic book of Hadith, the top of Sahih Sittah, and in that Muhammad says, I have been commanded to fight until the people say La ilaha illallah. He didn't respond to that. Then he also says things along the lines of there's not anything that is greater than jihad in this entire world. He doesn't respond to that. Shouldn't peace be greater then? If Islam's a religion of peace, shouldn't that be what Muhammad said? Let me also quote Ibn Majah, also considered part of Sahih Sittah. He says, in number 2763 of Ibn Majah, it says, it was narrated from Abu Hurairah, the Messenger of Allah said, whoever meets Allah with no mark on him as a result of fighting, he will meet him with a deficiency. According to Ibn Majah, if you don't come to Allah with battle wounds, you are deficient in your faith.
That's how central fighting is to Islam. Now think about this. We've been presenting our cases. We look to one of the last surahs revealed, Muhammad's final marching orders. Fight those who do not believe. That is a very clear statement. We turn to Islam's greatest commentator. What does he say? All people of the world must be called to Islam. If anyone of them refuses to do so, they should be fought till they are killed. That agrees with us. We turn to al-Bukhari. We turn to Sahih Muslim. I am called to fight people until they recite the Shahada. We look at Ibn Ishaq, the history of Muhammad. Everything in this debate agrees with our position, not with Abdullah and Yahya.
And I hate to do this again, but I have to end up with talking about women, because the first time I talked about women, many people in the audience shook their heads as if I was trying to say something evil. But the fact of the matter is, in Islam we know, chapter 4, verse 34, came down when the man had slapped his wife so hard that he left a handprint on her face. She comes to Muhammad and she says, this is what just happened to me. Muhammad says, I would rule in your favor, but I just received this verse from Allah saying, wives can be beaten. Not only that, Abu Bakr struck Aisha violently when she held up the army of Muhammad. In Abu Dawud, number 2142, it is said a man will not be asked as to why he beat his wife. In fact, Umar, thank you, the Khalifa of Islam, was going to beat his wife according to Ibn Majah, 1986. He went to beat his wife, a man stops him, and Umar says, I tell you by Allah, no man is going to be asked why he's allowed to beat his wife.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, all of you, for that.